Before we continue, if you are enjoying this story, remember to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and tell us from which city you are listening. Your participation helps us bring more moving stories like this one. Let's proceed. The heir to the powerful conglomerate lay in his hospital bed when he first heard it. Not just any voice, not the mechanical murmur of nurses or the formal tones of doctors. It was a melody. Soft, unexpected, almost a whisper. It came from the corridor. Adwa Mensah cleaned the marble floor of the private corridor with tired hands and distant eyes. At 30, she bore the weight of 2 continents. In Accra, she had left a small son. In London, she sold her days to buy his future. As the mop glided, her voice quietly escaped. It was an ancient lullaby, one Kofi used to ask for before bedtime. Arthur turned his face toward the ajar door. It had been 6 months since he regained his hearing after the experimental surgery. 6 months feigning a life of muteness. It was safer this way. While everyone judged him deaf, he heard everything. Every conversation, every betrayal, every whisper in Sterling Manor. And now, for the first time since the attack that had left him partially deaf months prior, he heard something that did not emanate from power. It emanated from humanity. She did not know he could hear. She did not know who he truly was. To Adwa, he was merely another mysterious patient, isolated in the VIP wing, registered as Mr. Miller. A man without a face, without a voice, without a history. One more among the many she served, who would never truly see her. But Arthur saw her, first with his eyes, then through sound, and unintentionally, he began to listen to her every day. Her shifts began at 5 in the morning. She cleaned rooms, corridors, waiting areas. She never complained. She never requested time off. Her wages were converted into monthly remittances for Accra, where her sister cared for Kofi. Each pound sterling represented a week without embracing her son. Yet, it was worth the promise of a brighter future. Arthur observed everything from afar. The way she folded the sheets with excessive care, how she offered water to patients overlooked by the nurses, how she smiled even when utterly exhausted. He did not comprehend it. In Sterling Manor, the service was impeccable, yet cold. Here, in that Ghanaian woman with calloused hands, there was something that gold could not purchase. There was affection. He began to feign sleep when she entered. He yearned to listen. Her voice assuaged something within him that even the surgery had failed to mend. She sang. She spoke to herself. Sometimes she murmured prayers in Twi. Other times she uttered her son's name. Kofi. Always Kofi. It was in the 4th week that Arthur resolved to approach her. But how? He was entrapped by his pretense. Deaf, isolated, untouchable. Then he devised a strategy. He intentionally dropped a glass of water onto the floor. Adwa entered swiftly, offering apologies in hesitant English. He gestured with his hand, inviting her to stay. She hesitated. No one had ever asked her to remain. Arthur pointed to a notebook on the table. He made the gesture of writing. She understood. She brought him a pen. He wrote in simple English, "You sing beautifully." Adwa froze. She looked at him confused. How could he know? She only sang when she believed no one was listening. Adwa left the room with her heart racing and her mind clouded. He should not have known. He should not have heard. Mr. Miller was deaf. Everyone affirmed this. Yet those dark eyes, that reserved smile, there was an enigma there she could not decipher. She returned the following day, more cautious. He was seated in the armchair by the window, gazing at the London cityscape beyond the glass. When she entered, he turned his face. There was no surprise. There was expectation. She cleaned in silence. He wrote again, "Do you have children?" Adwa paused. No one ever asked that. No one cared. She took the pen with trembling hands and replied, "A son, Kofi, 5 years old, in Ghana." Arthur read and wrote, "You must miss him." She nodded, feeling the knot in her throat tighten. She wrote back, "Every day." Thus it began, written conversations, brief yet honest. He never disclosed his true name. She never inquired. There was a certain security in that voiceless exchange. He did not need to feign his eminence. She did not need to feign strength. But as the connection between them deepened, something sinister stirred in the hospital's concealed corridors. Robert Sterling, Arthur's cousin and a key executive within the Sterling Group, was a man of impeccable appearance and a corrupted soul. He knew Arthur was present. He knew his cousin feigned deafness. And he understood that while the heir apparent was sidelined, he could amass power, wealth, and influence. Robert exploited immigrant workers. He delayed wages. He sold medical information of affluent patients. He inflated contracts. And now he plotted something grander. To convince the board of directors that Arthur was unfit to lead, that his deafness had rendered him weak, that the conglomerate required a strong leader, someone like him. Arthur heard everything, every meeting, every phone call in the hallway, but he still lacked concrete proof. He needed time, and ironically, he was finding in Adjua's silent companionship the patience he had never possessed. One afternoon, Adjua arrived in the room with reddened eyes. She attempted to conceal it, but Arthur noticed. He wrote, "What happened?" She shook her head. She did not wish to speak, but he insisted, pointing to the paper again. Then she yielded. She wrote with a trembling hand, "My supervisor cut my pay, said I complained too much. Now I don't know if I can send money this month." A profound indignation stirred within Arthur. He knew the supervisor well, a man subservient to Robert, who relentlessly extorted the last vestiges of dignity from the workers. He wrote, "How much do you require?" Adwa read it and recoiled. "No, I cannot accept. I did not come here to... But Arthur was already reaching for his wallet. He extracted every note he possessed. It amounted to approximately £2,000 sterling. He extended it toward her. Adwa regarded the money as if it were fire. "I cannot. It is not proper." Arthur wrote with conviction, "This is not charity. It is justice. You work harder than anyone here. You merit this." She hesitated. Her gaze fell upon the notes. She thought of Kofi, of the overdue school fees, of her sister, who performed miracles with virtually nothing. And for the first time in months, she allowed herself to accept assistance. She took the money with trembling hands. She looked at him, tears welling in her eyes, and uttered, in Twi, "Medase." Arthur did not comprehend the words, yet he understood the sentiment, and for the first time since the incident, he felt his life possessed a purpose beyond the corporate empire. But Robert was observing. He had noticed the length of time the Ghanaian cleaner spent in his cousin's room. He had noted the burgeoning closeness, and he began to scheme. 2 days later, Adwa was summoned to the administrative office. Robert was there, a disingenuous smile adorning his face. "Miss Mensah, we have a predicament. Funds are missing from the VIP wing's petty cash, and you were observed exiting Mr. Miller's room with something in your hands." Adwa paled. "No, I did not steal anything." "We have witnesses," Robert lied with cold precision. She returned to the small room she shared with 3 other workers, lay on the narrow bed and wept. Not for the injustice, not for the money, but for the profound shame, for the crushing sensation of being, once again, invisible and expendable. Arthur learned the following day. He overheard Robert conversing on the telephone in the corridor, boasting of his maneuver. "Yes, I got rid of her. She was growing too close to the VIP patient. I couldn't risk it." His cousin's voice was cold, calculating. Arthur clenched his fists. He yearned to rise, to tear away his facade, to cry out the truth. But it was not yet the opportune moment. Robert was powerful, possessing allies, controlling the board. If Arthur were to reveal himself now, without irrefutable evidence, he would be perceived as emotional, unstable, precisely what his cousin desired. Yet there was something Robert did not anticipate. Arthur possessed a strategy. That night, he departed the clinic for the first time in weeks. Not as the heir, as Mr. Miller, a man of no ostensible consequence, clad in unassuming attire, driving a rented car. He journeyed to the modest neighborhood where Adjwell resided. He had to inquire thrice before locating the correct building. He knocked on the door. She opened it, bewildered, her eyes still swollen. When she beheld him, the shock was immense. "Mr. Miller? How did you... Why?" He entered, surveying the stark confines, the peeling paint on the walls, the open suitcase on the bed. She was packing. Arthur retrieved the notebook he had brought and wrote, "Do not leave. Not yet." Adjwa shook her head. "I have no choice. I lost my job. Without a work visa, I am illegal here." He wrote swiftly, "Give me 3 days. Only 3. Trust me." She regarded him. There was something about that man. Something beyond the mystery. Something that made her heart quicken its rhythm. "Why do you care?" he vocalized, knowing he would not hear. Or so she believed. But Arthur heard. And for the first time, he nearly revealed himself. Adjwa acquiesced. 3 days. Yet she could not fathom the reason. Perhaps it was desperation. Perhaps it was the way he looked at her, as though she mattered, as though she were not merely another shadow serving invisible potentates. Arthur returned to the Sovereign Clinic with a meticulously crafted plan. He required irrefutable evidence. He needed to apprehend Robert in the act, and he knew precisely how. In the subsequent days, he commenced recording. He utilized his mobile phone, concealed beneath newspapers, capturing hushed conversations in the corridor. Robert was arrogant. He spoke openly of kickbacks, fraudulent contracts, and his intent to bribe members of the board. Every word was meticulously documented. Yet Arthur understood this was insufficient. He necessitated something public, undeniable. That would expose Robert before all. Thus, he devised a perilous stratagem. He instructed his personal assistant, Layla, the sole confidant of his truth, to arrange a press conference. The official pretense, to announce the heir's recovery. The genuine motive, to dismantle Robert before the cameras. Meanwhile, Adjwa waited. The 3 days were waning. She received messages from her sister inquiring about her return. Kofi had cried during their last call, expressing how much he missed his mother. She too wept, but in silence, gazing out the window of her small room, wondering if that enigmatic man would indeed return. On the 3rd day, a knock resonated at her door. It was an elegant woman, impeccably clad in a tailored suit, a polite smile gracing her lips. "Miss Mensah? I am Layla Al-Mansouri, personal assistant to Arthur Sterling, the Sterling family heir. He requested I bring you to Sterling Manor." Adjwa blinked, bewildered. "Heir? Arthur? Who?" Layla offered a gentle smile. "The man you know as Mr. Miller." Adjwa's world reeled. Miller, was he the heir? The scion of the powerful Sterling Group? That man who penned gentle notes, who inquired about Kofi, who had provided financial aid without expectation of recompense. Was he nobility? She wished to refuse, wished to flee, but Layla was firm, yet gentle, persistent. He requires your presence there, please. Adwa entered the official car, trembling, not from fear, but from profound incomprehension. What could such a powerful heir desire from her? Before Adwa could ask anything, the door opened. Arthur entered. No longer Mr. Miller, the mysterious patient, but as himself, the family heir, dressed in a tailored suit, the bespoke tie over his shoulders, his gaze now imbued with purpose. He stopped before her. For the first time, he spoke. He did not write. He spoke, Adwa. His voice was firm, deep, yet gentle. I heard you from the very first day. She took a step back, her eyes wide. You can hear? Yes. I regained my hearing months ago, but I needed to feign it. I needed to know who around me was real. He took a step forward, and you were the only real person I found. Tears came quickly, of anger, of relief, of confusion. You lied. I trusted you, and you... I know. Arthur lowered his head. And I am deeply sorry. But now I will set this right. Today, before everyone, I will expose those who betrayed me, and I will honor those who saved me. Adwa did not understand, but she had no time to ask. Layla guided her to the main hall, where journalists from around the world were gathered. Robert was there too, a confident smile, awaiting his cousin's abdication announcement. Arthur ascended the podium. The cameras turned. He took a deep breath and began to speak. 6 months ago, I lost my hearing in an attack. Months later, I recovered it. But I chose not to disclose it. I chose to observe. I chose to listen. His voice echoed through the room, and what I heard revealed the truth to me. Not merely about those who scheme against the family, but about those who uphold this country with their labor, their dignity, and their invisibility. Robert paled. While feigning deafness, I discovered that true silence is not the absence of sound. It is the absence of listening. Arthur turned to the assembly of journalists. This country was built by people whom no one sees. People like Adwa Mensah, a Ghanaian woman who cleans hospital corridors while singing so she does not forget the son she left behind. The cameras turned to Adwa, seated at the back of the hall. She wished to disappear, but Arthur continued. She did not know who I was. She did not treat me as an heir. She treated me as a human, and that is what healed me. Not the surgery, but the empathy. He paused. Therefore, I announce today the Unheard Voices Initiative, a project that will offer medical, educational, and legal assistance to all immigrant workers in this country, and Adwa Mensah will be its coordinator. The hall erupted in murmurs. Robert was led away in custody. Adwa was in shock. She could not process it. Coordinator? Her? After the press conference, Arthur approached her. Adwa stared at him, still trembling. Why did you do this? Because you taught me something Sterling Manor never did. That the most important sound is not that of power, it is that of truth. She shook her head, tears streaming. I do not wish to be a symbol. I only want my son back. Arthur smiled gently. Then bring him, legally, with dignity, and stay. Adwa looked at the man. An heir, yes, but also human, flawed, real. You still owe me an explanation, she said, her voice firm for the first time. Why did you feign? Why did you use me? Arthur did not avert his gaze. Because I was afraid. Afraid to trust. Afraid to be betrayed again. But you never asked for anything. You only gave. And that frightened me, because I did not know how to reciprocate. She took a deep breath. Begin by listening, truly, not solely with your ears. Kofi arrived 3 months later. Adwa met him at the airport, and when she saw him running towards her, she collapsed. She held her son tightly, as if to compensate for every second of absence. Arthur was there, discreetly, observing from a distance. When Adwa turned and saw him, she smiled. For the first time, a smile unburdened. In the following months, they grew closer, not as an heir and a subject, but as two individuals who had found each other in silence and learned to speak. Simple dinners, conversations in the Sterling Manor gardens while Kofi played, Arthur teaching the boy British history, Adwa teaching Arthur Twi. There was resistance, of course. The inner circle murmured. Some members of the Sterling family disapproved, but Arthur did not yield. "If I am to lead, I shall lead with truth. And the truth is, this woman showed me what the family legacy never did: humanity." Adwa, in turn, never ceased to be herself. She continued residing in a modest home. She declined the title of companion or any label that would transform her into a fantasy. "I am no fairy tale princess," she once told Arthur. "I am a mother. I am a worker. And if you wish to be with me, you must accept this." He accepted, not because it was noble, but because it was truth. A year later, at the inauguration ceremony for a new clinic of the initiative, Kofi ascended the stage. Adwa did not know. Arthur had prepared everything in secret. The boy held the microphone, shyly, and began to sing. The same lullaby Adwa used to hum in the clinic. The same melody that had awakened the heir's heart. The audience fell silent. Adwa wept. Arthur, beside her, held her hand. For the first time in public, without fear. When Kofi finished, the applause was deafening. But the most beautiful sound for Arthur was Adwa's whisper in his ear. "Thank you for listening." Their relationship was never conventional. There was no royal proposal, no crown for Adwa. She did not desire one. Arthur respected this. "I require no title to discern your significance to me," he would say. Yet one evening, beneath the star-strewn sky of the Sterling estate, as Kofi slept in a guest cottage, Arthur and Adwa walked side by side upon its verdant grounds. "Do you ever harbor regrets?" he inquired, "regarding your decision to remain?" She contemplated. Her gaze swept across the expansive, hushed grounds. "No. Yet at times, I still yearn for Accra, for the vibrant sounds of its bustling markets and the comforting scent of waki from the street vendors." Arthur offered a gentle smile. "Then we shall go. Whenever your heart desires, I will take you and Kofi to experience the land from which you came." Adwa paused, a trace of astonishment gracing her features. "You would truly do this?" "I would do anything." He cupped her face with tender reverence. "For you have imparted upon me the profound truth. The most pivotal sound is not merely heard, but consciously chosen to be heeded." A soft smile illuminated her face, her eyes glistening. "And what have you chosen to heed?" "You. Always you." And there, amidst the tranquil expanse of the estate, where the stillness was most profound, they embraced in a kiss. There were no lenses to capture the moment, no societal titles to define them. Only two hearts that had learned the delicate art of truly listening to one another. The following morning, Adwa awakened to Kofi bouncing upon the bed, requesting tea. Arthur was already awake, clad in unassuming attire, preparing tea. Their routine as they shared their morning repast. Adwa regarded the man who had once feigned deafness and now listened with his entire being. She then gazed at her son, finally by her side. And she comprehended that the greatest fortune was not gold. It was the profound sense of belonging. Arthur retrieved the guitar Kofi had received as a gift and began to strum. His efforts remained rudimentary, yet he was undeniably improving. Adwa chuckled softly. You are making progress. I possess an exceptional tutor. He offered a subtle wink. Kofi requested that they sing, and the three of them, united, intoned the melody that had once irrevocably altered their world. Beneath the silence's hue, where everything had commenced, life finally resonated with its rightful sound. The sound of profound affection.